Good evening, all. I have with me, let's start. So, I have with me Mr. Ritesh Rati, who is our GST experts. Hi, Ritesh ji.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sachin.
Good evening. So, Ritesh ji, today we have a people, our existing client, and there are the prospective clients, companies, and we are here. Everyone, we are here for the GST compliances. How and what all are the amendments are there? How it is managing? So, Ritesh ji, now it is over to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sachin. Good evening, everyone, again. All right. Sachin, can we start the presentation? So let us
Yes.
start.
Yes.
So that's my father, Sri Rameshwar Aljirati. He is also a chartered accountant and still practicing. Next slide. Myself, just to give intro, I am also CISA, DISA, lawyer, and I've done CL also. Next slide. My partner, CA Dinesh Soneji, he has also completed his forensic accounting and DCR. Next slide. All right. So over here, let us start from GST. See, basically what I have covered in this presentation is what errors, GST dealers make. Because GST by default, now it is nearly 7 years. So all of us are aware that GST ITC has to be availed only when it is reflected online, and what are basic, rate issues and everything. Okay. So this is the agenda for today's topic. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So we all are aware that GST registration turnover limit is 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, depending on services or goods. But what normally people tend to make a mistake is what has to be covered in 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. The item line in this turnover, very rarely people know about that. Even exempt sales is included in turnover limit. What I mean to say, suppose you are having a PPF interest of 18 lakhs and a sales turnover of only 3 lakhs, for example. But then you are going to exceed the limit of 21 lakhs, 20 lakhs. So if in case the sales is of services, then you are supposed mandatorily to take a registration under GST and charge GST on 1 lakh rupees, which has exceeded the 20 lakh rupees. Now, this very few people check because every person only sees the actual sales of their supply or services. They forget to tend to add the PPF interest or interest on loan or even residential rent, since it is an exempt income. Okay, next slide. Yep. Now, again, over here, everyone must be aware what is covered in the definition. Previous slide, please. Previous slide. Yeah, thank you. In this slide, we all are aware about the definition of sales. What no one has bothered is this red color thing which I have mentioned, highlighted here, that import of service. Everyone knows it is a RCM item, but it is specifically mentioned whether or not in the course of furtherance of business. Now, this is very dangerous because people tend to understand that only when it is related to business, then only GST is applicable. In this case, when it is import of service, then they have specifically added that whether or not in the course of furtherance of business. That means even if it is for your personal agenda, then also it will be supply in the definition of GST. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. Composite supply and mixed supply. These definitions have been derived in GST. These were not there earlier in the VAT era or service tax era. Now, composite supply is when we combine 2 or more sales in natural course, out of which one is a principal supply. Something which many dealers, what we have observed, this is my experience which I am sharing. When even we represent department also, then many places dealers make this mistake. I'll give you an example. For example, First of all, what is composite supply? When two supplies are bundled together, out of which one supply is a principal supply. What do you mean by principal supply? This second supply cannot be sold in individual capacity without the first supply. That is what is principal supply. Now, in this example, we have mentioned about TV and its maintenance and all. Now, see what normally dealers or some of you might have been making this mistake. If you sell an item which is having a 12% GST rate, you charge GST of 12%, and suppose you are adding transportation in the invoice, you charge 18% on transportation. This is not allowed because it is composite supply. Without the principal supply, transportation cannot take place. That means even on transport also you will have to charge 12% in my example. Going ahead, if we talk about mixed supply, where you sell two or more products. Now, this is not bundled in natural course, or this is not a principal supply sale. This is two or more different items, not related to each other, but you are selling it for a single price. In local business language, we call it a package price. In that case, you will have to select the highest rate, whichever is applicable out of those products. So that will apply to the entire rate. You cannot charge individually different rates for different items. Right? Okay. Next. This, even though we know, but then dealers tend to make mistake that transaction value. Now, what does transaction value includes? It will, so if you ask me in a simple language, everything that you recover from your client, everything, whatever you are recovering from your client, whether it is reimbursement, incidental expense, your interest for late fee, or your some sort of taxes, for example, road tax or something, whatever you are charging to your client, that all will include into your sales supply transaction value. This means that you have to charge GST on everything. You cannot say in GST era that this is my reimbursement and I will not charge GST on such supply. Only one category in GST is allowed to say that I will not charge on reimbursement. That is the pure agent. There is a concept in GST called pure agent concept. Now there are criteria to define pure agent, which means pure agent is someone who will work on your behalf. There is a written contract between you two. I am again highlighting, there has to be a written contract, no verbal contract. Also, the agent cannot retain even 1 rupee over and above the reimbursement amount. Which means, suppose you are having some CHA or some dealer is a CHA. He can collect charges, reimbursement, taxes, port duties, custom duties from the client and pay to government. There is a written contract between CHA and the dealer. But if that CHA charges in the same document custom duty plus documentation charges 500 rupees. Now, when he charges additional 500, he is saying that it is over and above the reimbursement amount. That means he will have to charge GST on the entire amount. That is why this clause is very dangerous, that you have to be very clear what should be included in the transaction value. Next slide. Okay, now RCM. So RCM, everyone are aware it is reverse charge mechanism. So, but RCM by and large, people think it is only either legal or it is on GTS services. Over here, I have given on this one screen, you will get all the RCM services. If preferred, you can take a snapshot also at the end of this slide. Next. All right. So everyone, we are aware, whenever you import any goods, automatically at the port level, customs duty paid, there only you pay this RCM GST amount also. Next slide. Import of services. Now, this is again something which many dealers have faced. Many officers are looking into it. They don't pay RCM on import of service. What is import of service? Any services which you avail outside India. which you are paying to a person or an entity outside India for services availed in that location. That is import of service in India. Import of goods we pay because it is customary, it gets paid at the custom port level. But import of service, there is no document, there is no bar because it is done online, everything. At such time, if you don't pay RCM GST, officer will not leave you, and then at some later point of time during assessment, you might end up paying interest and penalties on such amount. Next, legal services, we are aware, any legal services that you avail, then you have to pay GST. So whatever court cases, anything, just look at your profit and loss account and look for professional service or legal service. If there is anything into legal nature, you have to pay GST on RCM basis. Next, renting of residential property, right? This was not earlier when GST came, this was not into RCM ambit, but now it is also covered into RCM. So even if you are hiring a residential property just for your billing purpose, you have some employees sitting over there and you show that as rented property, and if it's a residential property, you are bound to pay GST on RCM basis. So for this item line, you have to see the rent expense in your P&L and whether that rent pertains to residential property or not. Next item line, security services. So if you have to pay RCM GST even when you avail security services. This I will again explain in the foregoing slide. Next slide. GTA, I think this we all are well versed with because the transporter itself themselves said that you have to pay GTA RCM basis. Next, renting motor vehicle for passenger. Again, something which many a times you may miss. So if you are a large entity and you rent a motor vehicle, you don't own a motor vehicle, you rent a motor vehicle for transportation of your employees or passenger. At such time, you will have to pay GST on RCM basis. And next slide. And the final one is services in the capacity of director. Again, something which you should be aware because many a times the officer takes advantage of inadequate knowledge here. So I will again cover this in the foregoing slide. I think that slide will be much better. Next slide. All right, I have just covered the same RCM on each and every slide. This is for legal entity. Next one. This is for your GTA services. I have on this, I have highlighted one more pointer that if you are, as I said, the transaction value should include everything. If you are recovering transport charges from your dealer, you will have to charge GST also on the same. Next slide. Residential property, if the tenant is registered in GST, yes or no, right? If he is not, means you are the tenant, okay? Or is the sitting fees. Officers try to bring directors' remuneration also into the ambit of this clause, but directors' remuneration is not included in this clause, and there is a specific circular also for this that directors' remuneration will not be covered under RCM because that it is treated as a payment to an employee. Next slide. Security services. Registered person who receives security services from a non-body corporate are required to pay GST. That means from a individual. Then only RCM is applied. If the other person is also a body corporate, then RCM is not applied. Then that person has to charge on forward mechanism. Next one. Renting of motor vehicle, I have covered at length. Next one. Import of services, again I have highlighted here that even if it is for a personal purpose, if it is not for furtherance of business, then also it will be treated as supply only. So that means you will have to pay on RCM basis. Next one. Import of goods, I think we all are very well adverse. Next. ITC, this is only one slide. This you all know. Conditions of ITC, you should be in possession of invoice, goods or services should be received, returns should be filed, tax has to be paid to government, and the additional which was added to the condition is it should be reflected online in 2B. Next one. Now, we all are aware that we cannot take ITC for any expense related to vehicle, right? But there are certain clauses where you can avail. Next slide. If you are using for transportation of goods. Now, remember, when we say transportation of goods, that means that if you are using you cannot say my private vehicle is used for transportation of goods. No, they have put a condition the vehicle should be more than 13-seater. So if you are using transportation of goods, that means it has to be a yellow number plate, basically. Then other than that, again, they have said that if you are into sale of, again, any vehicle, then of course it will be applied because it is as good as a goods for you. If you are into business of transportation of passengers, or if you are into business of training or training vehicle. Next slide. So this is, I have actually combined all the blocked ITC where people tend to pay interest. So the first section, food and beverages, outdoor catering, beauty treatment, health services, cosmetic and plastic surgery. All these 5 category, you can claim ITC only if you are into this same business. Otherwise, you cannot claim. The bottom one, life health insurance or rent a cab. This you can never claim ITC, but if any statute is mandatorily saying you to take this for your employee, then you can claim. This again, many people don't know. By default, everyone thinks LIC means you cannot claim. If there is any statutory obligation on you to take life or health insurance or rent a cab, then you can claim ITC of such expense also. And this you can never claim if goods are lost, stolen, destroyed, written off, or disposed by way of any way, or membership and health and fitness center, travel benefits to employees. Under no condition you can claim ITC of this. Remember, goods the most important in this is goods lost, stolen, destroyed, written off. So even if you write off an asset in books, then also you will have to reverse ITC. You cannot claim ITC. Next slide. Constructions. Okay, this most of us are aware, but the note is very important. You cannot claim ITC of any immovable property, but what is covered in immovable property construction includes reconstruction, renovation, addition, alteration, or repair to the extent of capitalization. Now, this is very important. They have given this in the definition itself that only to the extent of capitalization you cannot claim. If you are not capitalizing, then you can claim. Of course, you will have to be sound enough to know the difference between capital expense and revenue expense. So whenever there is a revenue expense, even if it is related to immovable property, you can claim input credit of such revenue expense. Next. So nowadays officers have started sending notices, because when you file your GST returns or annual return or GSTR 9C, we write there exempt supply, or we write nil rated supply or non-GST supply. See, ITC by and large is for the entire business. So you have to proportionately allocate between the taxable and zero rated supply. There ITC is available, and you have to reverse the ITC regarding your non-taxable, exempt and nil rated supplies. This is very, very important, because if you do it on your own, interest will be saved. Otherwise, later on, officer will levy interest by your own data. You can never deny your data which your own filing. And of course, the note is also important regarding ITC of inputs. If you do not pay to your dealer, to your supplier within 180 days from the date of invoice, you have to voluntarily reverse the ITC. Otherwise, officer will do it along with the legal consequences. Next slide. Tax invoice. All right. These are some common errors which officers take advantage at the time of assessment. Composition dealers, you have to issue bill of supply and not tax invoice. series of tax invoice should be maintained. And the last one is very important. Serial number in tax invoice should be in chronological order. Normally, we all have computer system. That time it should not be a problem. But many a times dealer override the computerized system and change the serial number manually or change the date manually. Now there is a problem because this will be treated as default by the officer. Next slide. Okay, I think that should be my near to end. So tax rate with respect to composition scheme, we all are aware about 1% rate of composition scheme. What I want to highlight in this is, if you are a manufacturer, other than the specified criteria, you have to charge 1% of the total turnover. When we say total turnover, it is always inclusive of exempt sale also. So you have to charge 1% on exempted supplies also, and along with that taxable supplies. And if you are trader or a service provider, you have to charge 1% only on taxable supply. You will not charge 1% on exempt supply. Next slide. E-invoicing. Now, earlier, many dealers still think that GST is one, but then you should understand there are three portals in GST era. That is e-invoicing portal, e-way bill portal, and GST portal. You have to be ready with reconciliation between these three portals, along with reconciliation of all the three portals with books of accounts. So normal errors is like, you raise an invoice in the GST portal, invoice portal, but you forget or tend to forget the uploading of debit or credit note on the e-invoicing portal. Then there will be a mismatch. Any non-compliance, it is 1,000 rupees penalty per invoice. So we have to be very careful about this also. Next one. Yeah, I think this I covered in the reconciliation. All right. Next one. Okay. We all are aware this has come 2 years ago and it is applicable now. So in your tax audit reports, you have to provide all your expenses detail in this format. So be ready with this because your auditor will be asking you to provide the details of entire expense in this format. Next slide. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope Sachin had told me to give some time space for the query session. So I have made the session a bit compact and I am open for any queries related to these slides or otherwise also.
So everyone, please just unmute yourself and be open for the queries. There is a one question just coming up. So basically, Ritesh ji, there is a question by Mr. Rajendra, who is asking about the composition scheme. So whether it is the composition scheme can be applicable for the service providers who is giving the services locally in India as well as the overseas.
Sachin, can you please repeat the question? Sorry.
So basically, the service provider
Yeah.
composition scheme is applicable. That is the applicable for the service provider or not? If yes, whether it is the local and export, both the things are doing services. So can it take the composition scheme?
Yeah. So first question is yes, it is applicable to services also. The limit is 20 over. If you are uh, export sales is below your limit. Fine, limit is 20 lakhs. Even if you want to go for composition, yes, if you're crossing 20 lakhs, then you can.
Plus, there is again another one is the RCM concept for import of goods and services. Please explain,
I
sir.
am any goods, right, from outside. When you import goods, automatically your custom agent, they will pay the GST duty at the port level.
Hello. 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 Yes.
So sorry, got logged off. Yeah. So should I continue?
Yes, please.
All right. So someone had asked query about import of goods or services, right? So import of goods is taken care by your CHA because without paying the GST at your port, your material will not be released by the customs. So, but then you should always remember that you have paid GST if you are importing goods. That means you should take input rate of such amount while filing your IT return as GST returns. Import of service is similar to import of goods, but then there is no custom agent involved here. So you have to take initiative and take care that whenever you pay any person outside India, it is simple as that. If you are paying any person outside India for any services, please remember to pay GST on RCM basis at 18% and take credit also.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
Praveen ji.
yes. Actually, my question is that if we pay we pay the amount to director against reimbursement of expenses, can we charge GST or not?
You are saying reimbursement of expenses. What is the nature of expense?
It's traveling expenses and petrol expenses.
No, no, no. So that you don't have an RCM basis because that is something as an employee. So if you are also an employee, you will also be reimbursed. So he is also getting reimbursed. He is not giving any services to the company. So no RCM is applicable on such a.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so this is Rakesh. I just want to know that while we are purchasing gold coins for business purpose, whether ITC will be available on that? Is there some notifications?
No, see, by default, this is a very gray area in GST because if you when you buy gold coins for maybe for business promotion, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
right, to give to your dealers or something. So this is actually your business expense. In that case, you can definitely claim GST on such amount.
Mm. But is there some documentations and all what we need to keep it for the assessment? Because sometimes the officers who do the assessment, he does not understand. He just disallow all such expenses and all.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So, I will share a list with Sachin sir, and he can definitely forward it to you, or
Yeah.
you can contact me through Sachin. No problem. No problem. I'll give
Thanks,
you.
Papa.
I'll just
Yeah.
note
So
down.
there's yeah.
I'll
This
share a
was
list of documentation.
yeah. So there's one more point is there. Like we
Yeah.
are supplying the goods in SEZ area. Okay. So we are supplying the good to SEZ area, but the bill two is showing as out of India. Okay. And shipping is in India and the payment comes in dollar. So whether this is also eligible, it will come under SEZ or it just be in the export, sir, export criteria.
You are saying your bill two is somewhere outside India.
Yes, sir. Bill two is outside India and
Ship two
ship two
is
is within India.
SEZ area.
Yes, SEZ area or without SEZ area also. So whether we have to charge, so whether it has to be treated under SEZ or export, they have to be treated.
See, if your ship two is within India,
Yeah.
right, then it is not export of goods because
Okay.
for export there is a condition goods have to move out of.
Print
Yeah. There is no goods are there. Only service is rendered and software license, which is called as e-software license will come in.
Same for me.
Okay.
Means there is no services sale of export of service also has criteria that services should be rendered outside.
Okay.
So then it will not be covered into export.
Okay. But if it is rendered in within India, so then GST is applicable, right, sir?
Yes, definitely.
And sir, but in that there are some five clauses are there, no? If it is billed to is outside of India and shipped to is within India, so there five clauses are there to be mandatory to treat as a export, like dollar payment.
Right. Foreign currency should be there. Within 6 months, you should receive the amount.
Okay,
Yes, it is a defined term in
depends.
GST. Yeah. If you look into the definition, section 2, you will get the definition of export of services.
Okay, sir. It
Yeah.
will be. And sir, now like you were telling earlier, the reconciliation that there should be reconciliation in e-invoice, EV bill, and GST. Okay, so just need to know. So if the goods are below 50,000, there is no EV bill mandatory, right?
Right.
But the e-invoice has to be generated. So that how
Yes.
that reconciliation will be happening, so then that how
No.
it can be reconciled, because
So
there's a gap will be there, no?
right. There will be difference. There
Yeah.
will be difference. That is why reconciliation is required.
Okay.
Mentioning that so much amount of invoices are below 50,000, which for
Hmm.
which there is no e-way bill.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
So that's a reconciliation what we need to keep for the assessment in futures and all, right, now, sir? So
Definitely. Now,
yeah,
this is a big task because if you see later on, you have already uploaded GSTR1 invoice level details. So
yeah,
they already have your details which invoices are below 50,000.
yeah. But
So
for
you
which
should be,
email is not there, for that there's a concern is there for that. Keep it.
yes,
Yeah.
right, right.
And sir, we are paying a mediclaim for our employees. Okay, group mediclaim which is there, for which insurance, for which taxes is charged. So that is also applicable for ITC.
No, ITC you cannot claim for even for employee also. You can claim ITC for health insurance only when some statutory act is requiring you to do so. Otherwise, not.
Otherwise, not. It's not right.
Yes, you cannot claim ITC.
Okay. So is there some notification like this, sir, which has come? That notification like?
No, it is clearly mentioned in the section 17(5) itself. It is mentioned.
Okay.
If you read, it is mentioned there that if it is an obligation on the dealer, then only you can claim it.
Okay. So I'll be just requesting for that. What I've asked you about the purchasing gold coins for business purpose. For that, please if you can share that some notification will be there now, so it will be very helpful to us, sir.
There is no notification because it is in the
Some
further
judgment is there, sir. Like judgment has come.
judgments. We will have to see. If I get it, I will share with Sachin. No problem. No problem.
Please, sir. Or some other notice or some other details which you are having, which will help us out. So that will also be very valuable, sir.
All right. Regarding, I have mentioned, I have noted down gold coins. So
Yeah.
whatever I can help you out, I will share it with Sachin sir. No problem.
Please, sir. Yeah, it will be very high.
Or you can contact me through Sachin sir. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Any other query? Any person? Any of the audience has some query or has
I
facing
just
something in your assessment at
Hello.
office level?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One more thing is there.
Sir, I have.
I'll just close on. Sorry for disturbance once more. I have one more query. Like there was some assessment was going on. Okay, in that we have done some business promotion expenses of hotel and all everything. So that ITC is not allowed to us, but that was pertaining to our this only to our business where we give our customers events and all everything happened. Hotel stay and company annual kickoff was there. So where the person has charged us
No,
GST
so
also, but it was not eligible to us.
see, basically, officers will always feel whenever you talk about hotel and resorts,
Hmm.
officers will always take a view that it is used for a personal purpose.
Hmm.
They will have the tendency because they are from revenue. So
Yeah.
it is our duty to prove that you are using this for your business purpose. So whenever you have any function or something, you should
Yes.
have photographs,
Yes.
of the workshop or seminar, something.
Yes.
And then you should specifically mention in your invoice also same way.
Hmm.
So it is our duty to establish that this was used for my business. Then they will have to accept
Then
it.
might
It
be
is possible.
might-
Yeah, it is possible that officer at lower level may not agree with you, but then at higher levels, we will definitely get it. No problem. But we will have to prove it.
Hmm. Fine, that's the proof what we have to do, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my question is that we have taken a MBD policy. It's a machine breakdown policy, and it's cover if our machine is going to break down for 2 or 3 days, then we claim the certain amount to the insurance company.
Right.
Can we pay the GST on reverse charge on that specific amount which we have received from insurance company?
No, sorry. I think I didn't get your question. You are paying some insurance amount for machinery, right?
Yes, we have taken one MBD policy. It's called as machine breakdown policy. Okay, and for some other reasons, our machine is going to break down for 3 or 4 days. Then we have to
Okay.
calculate our loss on the specific machine, and the loss has been reimbursed by us to insurance company. Can we pay GST on such a amount received from insurance company to us?
You are saying amount received from insurance company, right? The
Yes, yes,
compensation received from insurance company.
right.
No, there is no need to pay because for GST to be charged, there has to be supply. In your scenario, there is no supply of sale or service.
Okay.
So there is no GST to be charged on it.
Sir, is there any notification? Because right now we are facing some assessments and the GST officer is asking to pay the GST on RCM along with the interest. Then is there a
No,
notification?
no, there is no such specific notification for such scene, but we
Okay.
will have to go through the definition of supply. You will have to emphasize the definition of supply over there.
Okay.
And if there is no sale only, if there is no supply of service or goods, whatever it is, then the question
Okay.
of GST never arises.
Okay.
So you will have to emphasize the definition of supply in your representation. There is no
Okay.
specific notification for this.
Okay. And one more question is that we have 90% exporters. Okay. In our case, our customer demand is prepare firstly tax invoice and sending customer for approval basis. Okay, and sometimes our customers representative visited to our company and inspected the goods. In that case, uh, this takes 10 to 15 days and our GSTR1 is going to be filed, and after
Right.
that some goods is going to be rejected.
Okay.
Okay. Then or sometimes customers requested us to please don't send these goods right now, hold for 1 month, because all our customers pick up goods from our factory only. In that case, when we file the GST refund, we are facing these such issues like invoice date and EGM date or shipping date. There is a gap between 30 to 40 days.
Hmm.
Then GST officer is not allowing to such specific invoices. Refund is not going to allow to us. Then is there
No,
any specific?
again, there is no bar. There is no bar that you cannot do this.
Okay,
Just tell the officer to give the clause or proviso or section or rule where it is written.
okay, okay,
I think officer will never be able to give you in writing.
okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Sachin. Anything? Anyone else has any query?
So what are this efficiency and accuracy what we need to keep for 24, 25 in GST compliances? Some major changes are going to be happened.
Can you repeat your question?
So is there any major changes is going to happen in 24, 25 financial year from starting from April in GST
So there is
compliances?
there is the similar question already posted. That is, if you can elaborate some expected key changes in GST compliances for in the this current year, that is 2024, and what
Right.
would be a major impact on the businesses might be.
Current year changes, so I can't say anything because that is it is always when it comes, like when the notification comes, then only everything is applicable. What I can share here is government is using too much of AI nowadays. We don't even, you will never realize which data they will, you know, they are collecting all data from many portals. Let it be your, like, even ESIC data is being pulled by GST department. How many employees are there? They will be aware. So they will ask you a question like, अच्छा आपका तो जगह तो इतना सा है, how do you accommodate so many employees? That means you are hiring some other place. If you are hiring some other place, then why that place is not added into your additional POB? Just giving an example of AI.
Yeah.
So government is in the background, they are using too much of AI. They have built a software which just pulls all the data from different portals. And then, of course, they have the data before calling you or sending you a notice in case it is from investigation wing. This is what I can share you.
Okay. So in this case, like you just mentioned, like we have a place of, we have 2, 3 offices which have taken, but we have given one office on rental. So is that compulsory that we should show that office also in GST portal? That is the office, because this is not, because we are not using that office. We are giving on rental basis to some other people.
I get your point, but then you will have to show that office, because otherwise, how are you claiming, how are you showing rental income?
Because we are raising the invoice to that person, and GST, we are claiming that.
Right. So
Yeah.
law says, the GST law says, every place where you are having business operations from where it is not only goods, even services also. So renting is a service. So that place has to be registered in your additional place of business.
Okay, whether
Even if it is a rented property.
rental property, whether we use or not use, whatever, right?
It is not used in your business, but then renting by itself is a sale of service.
Sales services. And
Yeah.
sir, if we are in a proprietorship company, okay, and the like for this case, for this example only, rental property only, if we are proprietorship, okay, and the property is in the name of a husband and wife, and the rent is coming to the wife income, so that also we have to show as a place of business in our GST.
See, first of all, though, by and large, the whole concept is wrong that one person will get the rent. Right? From taxation angle, the owner will get the rent, and if there are co-owners, the rent will be given to both of them.
Yeah,
so,
divided.
replying to your question from GST perspective, if the GST officer comes to know that so and so property is given on rent and you have not raised an invoice, then definitely he will say that this is concealed sale.
Okay.
Because your property is given on rent, but you have not shown it to GST.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the branches and all? If you have branches also in some other state, do we need to show in our current GST also that this is our branches
No,
there?
no, branches. If you are having branches in other state, you will be taking GST registration at that branch.
That time only. But do we need to show in current state also where we have a registration that this is a branch what we have? Address to be a not required.
I think you cannot show only when you go for additional place of business registration. That is a state mandatory thing. If I'm not wrong.
Fine. Because one of the in the assessment it has some you have a so why didn't you show that? So that time the point was taking that also. By how we can show? It's not there only. So that officer was fighting for that also, Pura.
No. Then tell him to show. Tell him to just show on the screen how to add it. Yeah.
Fine, sir. That was our question. Good, sir. Thanks for this, Matlab, Pura.
Okay, Sachin.
Yes.
How can I help anywhere else or anyone else?
There is another thing which is related to the compliance, and can you just throw some light on the reporting structure of the GST? Say, for example, GSTR 1, 2, there is a something called 9.
Okay. I will share it right now. I thought, okay, no problem. So GSTR1 is basically your sales register, the entire sales or income register, whatever related be. Like someone shared right now, it can be GSTR1 will have your entire business sales plus any other income which is taxable under GST. Everything will go into GSTR1. So now in business language, you can say sale or income register. Then this GSTR1 you have to upload by 11th of every month for the previous month for monthly frequency returns. Then GSTR2B, this is GSTR 3B, sorry. GSTR 3B is filed on 20th of every month where you actually make the payment. Now, while filing GSTR 3B, you have to collate the data from GSTR 2B, which is your purchases and which is auto-populated. So you have to see whether all the GST paid invoices are reflected in GSTR 2B or not. In case they are not reflected, you will have to follow up with so-and-so client, and you can take the credit of input credit for all the invoices reflected in 2B. So these are two monthly compliances. Now, GSTR 9 is your annual return. So where you show you collect all GSTR1, you collect all GSTR 3B, and you have one return, and you file GSTR 9. GSTR 9 is applicable only and only when your turnover is exceeding 2 crores. Now, here I want to highlight one more thing. Suppose your turnover is not crossing 2 crores and it is somewhere around 1.5, 1.7 crore, for example. But your sales in GST and sales as per PNL or income as per your books of accounts is not matching, then this is an opportunity for you to reconcile and put the correct data in GSTR 9. So at any later point of time, if the officer emphasizes that so-and-so income is not shown, you can always say that, oh yes, we missed some income and then we have reflected it in GSTR 9. That will help you in the assessment process. And lastly, GSTR 9C, that is the audit form reconciliation between your books of accounts and GSTR 9, the annual return. The ratio between GSTR 9 and books of accounts is your GSTR 9C, which is applicable only when you cross a turnover of 5 crores. These are the four major returns which you should be concerned. Other than this, also there are, but these are the four major topics. I hope I have cleared this topic.
One more question was there from just because there's last year invoices which were there. If customer has not accounted it and the time bound is also gone for that financial year, which was September 23, that we can reverse this invoice and raise him other invoice.
No, the credit note can be passed only up to, for previous year, it can be passed only up to a certain limit.
Yeah, that was there.
After that, it is the risk that you are taking. Whatever happens, the officer will be at the upper hand. He will be having the upper hand.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Anyone is having any question? So there is have you explained, Riteshji, that is the 43BH section?
43BH, typically it is for income tax purpose. I'll just give a nutshell here right now if required. So, if you are paying to any MSME, okay, you are buying, your source is from MSME. You purchase some goods or some services from an MSME. Then this section is attracted, and the law says if you do not pay within 45 days, this is the higher limit. Within 45 days is the higher limit. Then such expense will be disallowed and it will be allowed in the year in which you pay to that invoice. So, typically speaking, you should see from today also, you should see your sundry creditors as on date, because earlier you have already paid within the year. As on date, whatever creditors you are having, whether you are going to pay in 45 days from the invoice date, then you are not at fault. That is what you have to see. And this is not applicable to traders. It is applicable only to MSME who are manufacturers and service providers, not to traders.
There's one more thought there. Like there's what you have told, payment within 180 days. If the payment terms is 190 days, in that case?
You are saying GST, right?
Yes, sir,
So,
GST.
no, whatever may be your payment term, 180 days from the date of invoice.
Okay.
GST is not concerned with your terms between the two parties. They have said 180 days from the date of invoice. If it is exceeding, you have to reverse. You will get the ITC again when you pay. So, for example, if it is within the year and you are paying within the year, then you will get ITC because it is the same year.
But sir, if you are paying some partial amount in that case, okay, instead of 100%, we are paying 20 as a payment slab is at 20, 30, 40, and the
No.
balance after the payment terms, then
Right.
also it will not be allowed?
No, it will not be allowed. You will have to show that you have paid the entire invoice.
Oh, okay. Fine, sir.
Yeah.
And sir, is it mandatory for that ISD registration? Is this compulsory now to all?
No,
No.
ISD is not mandatory.
This is only for the bankers and all, right? No, this ISD.
Yeah. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory.
Mandatory, no? Fine.
All right, Sachin. I think rest of the queries, in case someone has, they can definitely reach me out.
Yes. So just give me a minute.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me check once only the chat box. So
Sure.
most of there is only one question which is I feel we have to address, that is the optimizing the input tax credit mechanism under the new regulation GST.
GST optimization, you see, normally if I talk about this, I talk it from different perspective. GST leakage, I talk it about. So normally what happens, many a times people do pay GST at several instances within the business profile also. But while recording in the accounts, they tend to forget it. Let it be small amount also, because I don't know, the volume and the level of business is dependent upon that. So many times small amounts will also accumulate to a big amount. So very basic. So accountants many times do that. So giving an example, internet expense, for example, accountant may record it like internet expenses, say 118 rupees. Whereas if you, and they may not have given the GST number to internet provider. Just an example. So it will not get reflected on online portal also, and I have also not claimed it in the books. So I will lose my 18 rupees over there. So optimization or GST leakage, whenever we speak about, we always say whether you have recorded at least in books all the GST paid by you to any vendor.
Okay.
It's reflected online or not, we will check later on through 2B. But at least record it in the books. And definitely at the year end, many times people do think about the stock, how much stock to be kept so that their GST can be leveraged.
Okay. So thank you, Ritesh bhai, and thank you attendees for the participation. And I hope if you have any query or any question, there is the mail ID written down on the screen. You can please share the mail uh, with your queries, or you can connect on the call send the messages on the WhatsApp on this number mentioned. We will definitely